If we offer to Yah worship that he has not asked for, is it still worship? Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day number 4 of Torah portion Shemini, the word meaning eighth. This is a time of ordination, setting oneself apart, being called to a privileged place of priesthood, and choosing to follow the protocols that the Father has outlined for us to approach him. Yesterday we talked about this tragic story of Nadav and Abihu as they chose among themselves to bring fire pans filled with incense on coals of fire and present them before Yah. He was not well pleased. Fire came out from the tabernacle, consumed them, and they were carried out of the camp and buried. What did they do wrong? What was the line that they crossed? What was their error? You and I may perhaps debate this until the kingdom comes and Yeshua can explain it to us. Were they drunk? Were they arrogant? Were they secretly carnal? Were they sourcing the fire from a campfire somewhere? Exactly what was their transgression? It comes down to a very basic principle. They chose to offer Yahweh worship that he did not require nor condone. Let's explain this a little bit more. I have a couple of statements here I want to read to you. Number one, Nadav and Abihu chose to encounter Yahweh according to the ways that they encountered the world around them, according to their own decisions made on their own reasonings and processes. They chose to worship Yah according to their best decisions. Is this what Yah is asking from us? As he's simply wanting you and I to suppose that we're presenting to him what he wants and hope that he accepts it. Let's consider this. Yeshua stands at the Father's right hand, ever living to make intercession for us, the word says. So if we're going to cry out to Yeshua and ask him to intercede in our behalf and defend us against the accuser, the slanderer of the brethren, would it not behoove us then to align our lifestyle and life decisions based upon his teachings and commands? Are we free to live our own way according to our own preferences and perspectives, our own worldview, and then appeal to him, defend me, Yeshua, you are my Messiah? I don't know how much fruit that choice would make. Yah says to us in the Torah, do not examine and investigate the ways that the nations around you worship their Elohim, their mighty ones, their gods, their idols, and then apply these practices to me. I do not want to be worshipped that way. The 10 northern tribes formed the house of Israel. They constructed 2 altars, had calves placed on top of them. They chose their own priesthood, their own feast days, their own mechanics and protocols of worship. They worshiped Yahweh intertwined and mixed with calf worship, and Yah was not pleased nor accepting of what they presented to him. The southern tribes, the house of Yehudah, were also criticized because they had the temple, they had the single altar, they had the right priesthood, they chose the right days, but their hearts were not involved. So exactly what is it that Yah wants anyway? A number of years ago, what I heard from the Father in a time of prayer was, do not claim to have a place before me that you're not willing to be set apart for. That statement shook me because I had often spoke of desiring to kneel before him, of being close and intimate with him, of worshiping him and bowing at his feet, looking up into his face, claiming to desire to have his hands placed upon me, sensing and yearning for that close intimacy with him. Yet my lifestyle wasn't necessarily one where it was consecrated and devoted to that place. Rather, I was still perhaps am living more according to my own desires, my own inclinations, my own preferences, than that which would be required for that place of intimacy. I think of the life of Moshe. Moshe was allowed to come up before the Father, separated only by a very thin veil of smoke, a cloud, condensation hanging in the air. And just on the other side was the reality of our Creator. Moshe heard him speak face to face, ear to ear. Yah knew Moshe, and Moshe knew the Father. All that could be seen of him, Moshe saw. All that could be heard of him, Moshe heard. How did he get to that place? He was willing to set himself apart to that level, and it cost him. Yehoshua was chosen to follow after Moshe at his death because Yehoshua stayed in the tent. When Moshe left the tent to come and address the people, Yehoshua remained behind, clinging to that presence. I believe having the same fervent desire and hope of encountering the Most High and being willing to set himself apart to that place. Yah very plainly says in Vayikra, Leviticus 10:2, by those that approach me, I will be set apart. That's actually verse 3. And before all the people, let me be esteemed. Yah requires set apartness in approaching him. In the year 2002, May of that year, I sat in my backyard praying, still pastoring my last church, when I heard these astounding words, at least they were to me. When you come out, do not recreate what you come out of. That was the first solid understanding I was leaving the church. In August of that year, I heard, you have until the 1st of Tishri to get out. Not knowing when that was, I researched a Hebrew calendar and found out I had been given a 2-week notice. I had to find a way of resigning my ordination and credentials, resigning from my church, and finding some means of supporting my wife and my 2 teenage daughters. Would we lose our home? Would we lose our vehicles? Would we starve? What were we going to do? But I trusted the voice who spoke to me, and Yah has more than taken care of us. In September of 2002, we started House of David. One of the struggles that we had was to determine what constitutes worship. Now, we debated about many things. Well, how do we design ourselves? What do we do? And remember the command, do not recreate what you come out of. I refuse to pass a plate to take an offering. I refuse to create a membership roll. I refuse to have title positions and committees and those kinds of things. We did the bare minimum of organization in order to function to the best of our ability according to what we believe Yah wanted for us. Frustrated after a few years because things were still not what we thought they should be, I cried out to the Father and reminded him of those words, do not recreate what you come out of. What do you mean, Yah? What do you want? Yah said purity of heart. Frustrated, I cried out, Father, I thought you were talking about mechanics. He said, no, son. Mechanics I can use, but I'm looking for purity of heart. Now, that didn't mean that we could just do anything that we wanted to with a pure heart and it would constitute worship. He still had protocols, but he's asking us to do them with a pure heart. Following up this prayer the next day, I said, Father, what are your protocols? What are your mechanics? What do you want? The tabernacle, son. The tabernacle are my mechanics and my protocols. So what constitutes worship? Coming into his gates with singing and adoration, acknowledging the completed sacrificial work of Yeshua the Messiah on our behalf and the covenant ramifications and benefits that it produces for us. Being washed and cleansed and set apart at a laver where we're undefiled and made clean. Standing in the illuminating fire and light of the Ruach HaKodesh and allowing these giftings to move us into the understanding of how to digest the bread of life, the word of the Most High, and approaching him with intimacy and intercession at an altar of incense. These are mechanics, but they still must be done with a pure heart. We just simply can't go 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, and expect to encounter him. Yah wants you, he wants your heart, and he wants it presented the way that he accepts it. Let's give him our best. Until tomorrow, shalom.